Hey, Harvest Marshall here. I am the youth director here at Harvest. I am excited to join you online. That being said, I'm kind of an extreme extrovert, so this social distancing is really trying at times for me. But we are excited to be able to still join. We're looking more forward to the day where we all get to fill this church again and see each other as a family. But the interim, we have this, and what a cool opportunity it is. So I get to sit here and talk to you for a few minutes just about one of my favorite verses in Isaiah. I grew up in the church. That is not a COVID cough. It's a regular cough. I grew up in the church, and I grew up in a generation that coined the phrase popcorn prayer. And if you don't know what that is, we would sit as a youth group in a big circle, and as people felt led, just like popcorn in a pan, they would pop. So someone would say a verse or a line or a phrase or a prayer. And as I would sit there, they would go around and I would just listen to these big, verbose, giant, eloquent, praise-filled lines and prayers. And I would think, man, this kernel ain't going to be popping. I couldn't compete with how they sounded. And even in the times where I did try to compete, I was so focused on my words and my speech and the inflection of my voice and the spiritual sounding of my words that I was without question more praying to those who sat around me than I was to the God of the universe. As a result, my own prayer life started to deteriorate as I just struggled to understand the value of prayer because I had angled it in such a way that I was focused on my strengths and my abilities and my skills in orating my prayers well to God. In that season, I remember landing on a verse in Isaiah, the second last book of Isaiah, in chapter 65, verse 24, I found this verse. It will also come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are still speaking, I will hear. I love that verse. I can read it again and again and again because it shows God's unique perfection over me. It shows a character and a nature of God that is so far beyond me. It shows that regardless of my skills, God is not looking for the sharp-tongued orator. He is not turning a deaf ear to the sloppy-worded Marshall. He is taking me because he knows my heart, and before I even speak to him, he knows my heart and he knows my request. Before I'm on my knees, he's already answered my prayer. It's an exciting thing for me to know because I've placed so much weight on my ability to come before the throne that I felt that just kind of slowly pull me away from my prayer life. And now I come to the throne with a lot more confidence, not because of my skills, because I realize the strength of my prayer is not in my words, but the strength in my prayer is in my heart. There's a little passage from one of my favorite books, a book called Prayer. It's by a man named O. Helsby, and in 1931 he wrote this book, and it's just one of my favorite books. I read it all the time, and there's just this line here I want to read to you. He says, "Prayer is something that is deeper than words. It is present in the soul before it has been formulated in words, and it abides in the soul after the last words of prayer has passed over our lips." So church, just be excited this morning that God is aware of you, he knows you, he hears you, and he just wants you to approach him. I believe we are called to prayer, and I believe we're called to prayer with our fellow believers. And in this time, gather your family around and just pray together that God will continue to move us to work on his behalf in this season. What an exciting season it is to rethink about how we're going to do everything, to see the church that is not a building, but to see a church that is an alive and active body of Christ serving in a new way. Thank you, church. We'll talk to you soon.